Hey guys, today I want to show you a quick fix if your nut slot is cut too deep or too shallow and you may not have time to take it in for repair, or you just may need to, you want to just see how you can fix it yourself. This is an easy quick fix, so let's get into it. Alright, so in this case, let's say you have a string that is sitting too high in the nut. You got the guitar and for some reason it's just sitting above the other strings. It doesn't feel right. It's sticking up too tall. You're having trouble pushing it down. You just want to go ahead and file it. It's a pretty simple thing. You just loosen up the string. And what you want to do is grab your caliper. Now you should already know the gauge of your strings, but we're going to assume that you know that you're going to be cautious. And this is a 24 gauge string. So what we would do is grab the 24 gauge nut file. Loosen the string, move it over out of the way. And what you'd want to do is come in a downward motion. You don't want to come flat like this. You want to come down and just move like so. And just go in, going downward. You want to go towards the headstock. Run a couple passes, very light, paying attention to how much dust you're creating because a little goes a long way. Go ahead and set it in there and tune it back up. And get to a spot where you feel comfortable. Let's say you don't have a nut file, and part of the problem, of course, is going to be you can take it to your local center, but you're trying to save some money, or you just want to do this quickly, and these are kind of expensive. So what can you do? Well, what you can do is you could take a string. In this case, we're going to take a 16 gauge string, this guy right here. And the reason why we're using 16 is because we're going to take the gauge that's below it. In other words, the string that's below the string on top. You get yourself a piece of 400 grit sandpaper, and all you do is wrap the paper around the string to make a makeshift file. You can also take your caliper and verify this. And see, it's not quite 24, but 25.5. We're going to go ahead and say we're safe. You don't have to use the ball inside of the string. I just happen to when I have to do this real quick. Go ahead and loosen that string. Same as before, move it out of the way. And same as before, just go ahead and lightly make a pass. This is also good for smoothing out spots. I like 400 grit, that's what I use. But what happens if you take too much material off? Well, in this particular guitar's case, let's go ahead and put that back for a second. We have the opposite problem with this string. The nut slot is cut way too low. So how are we going to fix that? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a straw, take a pair of scissors right here, and go ahead and just cut it like so. And what we'll have now is a spoon. So what we'll do is we take some standard baking soda, like so. And put it in a container that you can mix it with. And just use a couple dots of super glue. And you'll notice this process has to be pretty quick. Use the straw to mix it. And then use this to apply it . Okay, now you can go ahead and I use a toothpick just to do some of the cleanup. And you can see now, in fact, I'll use this toothpick. You can see it's perfectly flat. So we'll go ahead and take the 32 gauge file and line it up. Coming at a downward angle like before, go ahead and file it through. And you'll notice this stuff is hard as rock. And just work it back and forth. And just go in forward motions. And you can see it'll hold tune it'll be fine. I use a little lubricant there, like lubricant. I really advise that on this. Take some of the friction out of that so the string doesn't start working that material out. But this will definitely get you by for a while. It's up to you. I like this only as a temporary fix, but it's a good trick, especially if you know, you just need to get through some gigs. Or in this case, this is a great way to fix this nut, get the slots correctly, and then use this nut as the template for the new one. Now here's a guitar I built for my daughter many years ago. It's a small scale, and it had obviously stickers for her to learn the notes. But the question is, like, what about like on something like this? Can you use that material? Absolutely, use the material. It works the same way. Put some glue in there. Okay, so the first thing you should know is, there you go. It's gonna dry like that. Now you can see it's perfectly dry, and that's what it looks like. So it's not that horrible. And this nut is plastic, and I don't have a problem with that. But what if the nut was graphite? Well, actually, believe it or not, I used some graphite powder. Same exact system. I'm gonna take some baking soda, and this is in case you want it to look a certain way. Go ahead and put it here. And I go ahead and I mix in some powdered graphite, add the super glue, mix it quickly. You'll see it's darker in consistency, but it's still going to dry hard and fast. Okay? And let this one dry. And you can see now this is dry, but look at the difference between this one and this one. Let's get that closer. So just adding a little graphite powder to the mix will help it look right if you have a graphite nut. Plus, maybe you'd add some lubrication in there. I'm not quite sure. I do it for aesthetics only. There you have it. Another quick tech tip. Join me every Tuesday. I want to do one of these until the rest of the year. If you guys like these videos, please thumbs up and share them. And I want to thank the patrons because they're the ones that make these videos possible. And this was actually their idea. So again, thank you to everyone who supports the channel through Patreon and everybody who supports just by watching, sharing, and subscribing. Again, as always, I appreciate your time and know your gear.